Welcome to the deep dive, where we take all that complex source material you see out there, cut through the jargon, and give you the concentrated insight you need. Fast.
Today, we are getting into, I think, one of the most incredible corporate turnarounds of the last decade. We're talking about Hitachi.
Right, a company that's over a century old. You think of them, you think trains, power plants, massive industrial hardware. And they were really staring down the barrel of becoming obsolete.
They absolutely were.
So our mission today is really focused. We are unpacking how this gigantic traditional Japanese company managed a complete strategic pivot. And it was all driven by one single digital platform, Lumada.
That's the key.
We need to figure out how Lumada, which is the tech engine, became the cornerstone for, everything. Huge organizational restructuring, new business models, and some really impressive financial growth.
And that's the critical lens here. Lumada, the name itself is kind of cool. It's a mix of illuminate and data. And it's their big digital platform for IoT, analytics, AI, you know the deal. But just calling it software, that really undersells it. It's the core of what they call their social innovation business.
Which sounds a bit like corporate speak. What does that actually mean?
It's about integrating all this new digital tech with the century of industrial know-how they already have, to solve these huge, complex problems in energy, transportation, healthcare.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because for 100 years, Hitachi's identity was hardware. They were the masters of physical stuff. How do you convince a company like that, a behemoth, built on selling steel and machines, to completely change its identity and focus on digital services?
Well, the shift had to be absolute. It really had to start from the very top. Before Lumada, Hitachi was, very product-focused, and it was organized in these powerful separate silos.
One for rail, one for power, one for IT, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And those silos were great at building their one specific product, but they were terrible at sharing data and knowledge. They actively prevented it. And that's the oxygen for any digital business.
So Lumada was the catalyst.
Lumada was designed to be the catalyst, yes, to unify all these capabilities that had been operating completely on their own.
So the platform itself became the justification for, internal warfare against the silos. You're saying they figured out that to change the tech, they had to change the entire structure first. And that is always the hardest part.
It is always the hardest part. They knew the internal structure had to support the external strategy. They had to break down this massive wall between their traditional OT operational technology.
The people who actually run the factories and the trains.
Right. And their IT information technology groups, the software and cloud people. And they made some really dramatic moves to do it.
So give us an example. What was that first big structural shockwave?
Okay, so in 2017, they created Hitachi Vantara. Now, this wasn't just, a simple rebrand. It was a forced merger of three completely different parts of the company.
Which ones?
Hitachi Data Systems, Penta, and the Hitachi Insight Group. They smashed them together to create Vantara, this single global digital solutions subsidiary. Its only job was to build and deliver Lumada-based solutions. It was a huge move to break down those old walls.
That deals with unifying the teams. But what about speed? In a massive company like that, agility is usually the first thing to go. How did they tackle the sheer inertia?
They brought in a whole new operating model. They call it the Frontline Platform Product 3-tier structure.
Okay, break that down.
So the old model was just too slow for software. The new structure was designed specifically to speed up decisions by separating things out. You have the frontline, which only deals with the customer.
Got it.
Then the product team, they still focus on the physical hardware. And then right in the middle, you have Lumada, the platform, as the common digital backbone for everybody.
That makes a ton of sense. So Lumada becomes this shared utility. The frontline teams get to move fast, but everyone is building on the same foundation.
Mm.
But, changes like this are expensive. They must have had to free up some serious capital.
Oh, for sure. And they sent a really clear signal to the market and to their own people about it. They started divesting, selling off legacy businesses that didn't fit the new digital plan.
Like what?
Things like Hitachi Chemical, Hitachi Metals, their automotive parts unit. These were profitable businesses, but they weren't synergistic with a future built on Lumada. They were pruning the tree, like you said, to redirect all the nutrients.
Okay, so they're changing the structure, they're moving the money. But with all these moving parts, Vantara, the frontline units, how do they keep the strategy unified? How do they avoid just creating a new set of digital silos?
That's where the control tower idea comes in. The goal was one Hitachi. So in 2022, they set up Hitachi Digital LLC, right in Silicon Valley.
Ah, the nerve center.
It's the strategic nerve center, yeah. It coordinates the whole global Lumada strategy across all the different business units, energy, rail, everything, to make sure they're all on the same roadmap. What's really fascinating is just how fast they did it. They dismantled decades of these deep-seated silos because they knew they had to.
So they fix the structure, they fix the finances. But you can't just become a software company overnight. You need talent, a massive amount of talent. Which brings us to acquisitions.
The M&A strategy was so smart. It was about getting talent, scale, and data all at the same time. On the talent side, the huge move was buying GlobalLogic in 2021. It's a top-tier digital design firm.
When you buy a company like that, it's not really about the code, is it? It's about the culture.
It's totally a culture acquisition. I mean, yes, GlobalLogic brought in about 20,000 skilled digital engineers, which is huge. But the real prize was injecting a design thinking culture into Hitachi. It forced a mindset shift from being engineering-led, building things just because they could, to being customer-focused, building solutions based on actual user needs. It was the cultural shock they had to have.
And then on the other side, you've got the acquisitions that weren't about culture, but about sheer OT scale and, more importantly, data.
That's where buying ABB's Power Grids division in 2020 was so transformative. It's now called Hitachi Energy.
And that wasn't just about getting bigger in the energy sector.
Not at all. It instantly gave them this huge, real-world library of operational data and a massive client base. These are clients with electrical grids, huge industrial assets, all perfect targets for Lumada to come in and optimize. It created a ready-made market for the platform.
And they did something similar with robotics, buying JR Automation.
Yeah.
So if you connect all these dots, it brings you to their main competitive advantage, the thing that makes them different, this fusion of IT and OT.
This is the absolute crux of the whole strategy. Lumada is the glue. It combines Hitachi's century of OT domain knowledge, that deep, deep expertise in how railways actually run, how power plants work.
The physics of it all.
The physics of it all with their new IT capabilities, AI, cloud, analytics.
So if a pure IT company, let's say a Google or a Microsoft, goes to a power grid operator, they can offer cloud and AI. What can Hitachi offer that they can't?
They can offer solutions that get the physical reality of the equipment. So a pure IT company might see sensor data. But Hitachi, with Lumada, can use AI to not just predict a failure in a turbine, but to understand why that specific model of turbine in that climate at that load is likely to fail.
Because they have 50 years of engineering data baked in.
Exactly. They embed that intelligence right into the system. This fusion means they can deliver real, measurable outcomes that pure IT companies just can't touch.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me. Because that fusion, that deep expertise, lets them completely change the conversation with their customers. They can stop talking about selling a product and start talking about business outcomes.
You've nailed it. And that pulls us right into how they make money from this, which is all built around procreation. Lumada isn't something you buy off the shelf.
Right.
Solutions are developed with the customer in partnership. They use the customer's specific knowledge alongside Hitachi's tech and engineering know-how.
And they've made this a core part of their sales process, haven't they?
They have. They use design thinking, rapid prototyping. They have a library of pre-built Lumada components that makes it way faster to build a custom solution. And they even built the flagship Lumada Innovation Hub in Tokyo in 2021.
A physical space for this collaboration.
A physical and digital space, yeah. Hundreds of organizations have gone there to brainstorm and prototype solutions with Hitachi's engineers.
So that co-creation model is what lets them get away from those big, lumpy, cyclical equipment sales.
The shift to recurring revenue is everything. It makes their business so much more predictable. So with Lumada, instead of just selling a machine, they sell remote monitoring, predictive maintenance, software updates, all for a monthly or annual fee.
So CapEx becomes OpEx for the customer.
Exactly. And it's stable, long-term revenue for Hitachi.
But the most innovative part of this, and maybe the riskiest, is the outcome-based pricing. That's a huge bet on your own technology.
It's a profound alignment, isn't it? This model ties Hitachi's revenue directly to the results Lumada delivers. So you might not pay them for installing a system, you pay them a percentage of the money you save or the efficiency you gain.
Wait, so to be crystal clear for the listener, if the promised efficiency gains don't show up, Hitachi doesn't get their full payout. They're actually taking on the performance risk.
They are taking on the risk. It's the ultimate show of confidence in their ITOT fusion. You're paying for the result, guaranteed uptime, for instance, not just the parts or the service hours.
That is a game changer.
And they're bundling Lumada with their physical gear more and more. You buy new trains, you get a multi-year digital service agreement baked in. It drives up the value and the margins.
So how do they take this to market globally? It sounds really customized.
They're very focused. They tailor the Lumada offerings by industry. So you have things like Lumada Manufacturing Insights just for factories. And critically, they use their massive existing customer base. They call it the brownfield approach.
That has to be a massive internal advantage.
It's huge. A brownfield site is just one that already has your stuff in it. If a city bought Hitachi trains 10 years ago, they are a perfect low-cost target for Lumada rail maintenance analytics.
You're just layering digital services onto the hardware you already sold them.
Exactly. It dramatically lowers customer acquisition costs and speeds up adoption worldwide.
This all sounds like a perfect textbook transformation.
Yeah.
But it brings us to the big question, the one we have to answer. Did it actually work? Did this huge, complicated, multi-billion-dollar shift pay off for the business? Let's look at the KPIs.
The answer is unequivocally yes. Lumada has been the growth engine, no question. We're looking at a 30% compound annual growth rate. Key AGR for the Lumada business from 2021 to 2023.
Wow. Okay, 30% CAGR. For a company of that size, that is aggressive growth.
It's incredible growth. And in terms of scale, Lumada's revenues more than doubled in 5 years. They hit about 2 trillion yen by fiscal 2022.
So what does that mean for the company as a whole?
It has completely changed their business mix. Lumada-based businesses are now somewhere between a third and 40% of Hitachi's entire consolidated revenue. That is a fundamental, measurable shift away from that old, cyclical, heavy industry model.
And this is high-margin revenue. That's the part that really validates the whole strategy.
That's the key. These are software and service contracts. They're much more profitable than selling big pieces of equipment. So the adjusted operating profit margin for Lumada is way higher than the company average. They're targeting around 16%, which is a huge boost to Hitachi's overall profitability.
We've talked about the external growth. But what about inside the company? Are there metrics that show the cultural change actually took hold?
There are. Internally, applying Lumada to their own operations led to real productivity jumps, especially at their Omika Works factory. But maybe the biggest sign of the cultural shift is the people.
Okay.
Roughly 95,000 people in the Hitachi group are now working on digital projects. That tells you this isn't some small side project. Lumada is the central nervous system of the entire organization now.
And it's clearly pushed them onto the global stage in a new way. The acquisitions, the strategy, it's all made North America and Europe their fastest growing markets.
It really has. They've kind of achieved the holy grail. They leverage their deep history to completely future-proof the business.
So to synthesize all this, Lumada was the tool that let Hitachi marry a century of engineering knowledge, the OT, with modern digital tech, the IT. They carved out this unique, defensible space right at the intersection of the physical and digital worlds. Their deep expertise became their greatest asset, not their biggest burden.
And I think Hitachi's journey just confirms something really important. For these big legacy industrial companies, success in the digital age isn't just about buying new tech. It requires a true cultural transformation.
Right.
You have to be willing to tear down old power structures, you have to embrace agility, you have to co-create with your customers, and you have to start measuring success based on outcomes. The Lumada platform in the end is just the technological expression of that much deeper cultural shift.
Which leaves us with a provocative thought for you to think about. Which traditional heavy industry out there today, think about something like commercial aviation maintenance or heavy mining or global logistics, which one is sitting on a unique, unexploited advantage in its domain expertise that could be completely unlocked if it adopted a platform-driven, outcome-based service model just like Lumada?
Thank you for listening to today's episode of our Digital Servitization Exchange podcast. We hope the insights sparked new ideas, challenged assumptions, and brought clarity to the evolving world of service and digital-driven business models. This podcast is grounded in extensive research across various fields, drawing on years of academic work, case studies, and cutting-edge publications. It also shaped by hands-on experience of our collaboration partners, whose real-world challenges and successes help us to translate theory into practice. If you enjoyed the episode, consider following the podcast and sharing it with colleagues. who are navigating the civilization journey. Your support helps us continuing bridging high-quality research-based and practice-proven perspectives straight to your ears. Thank you for tuning in and see you in the next episode.